Catherine Cobden joins us now. She is the president and CEO of the Canadian Steel Producers Association. Catherine, very good to see you again. Thanks for making some time for us.
Good morning, Natasha. I wish it was under better circumstances.
Well, you know what? Me too. But let me ask you for your reaction, because many of us were taken by surprise. What were you thinking when you heard Trump's announcement?
Well, listen, we've had months and months of disarray and uncertainty. So this is yet another, punch in the gut, if you will, from the president on the domestic steel industry here in Canada. We're their largest trading partner in steel. They're our largest trading partner as well. And we're highly integrated. And, simply put, we do not understand at all why this is happening. And it will have negative consequences. I obviously negative consequences in Canada with the domestic steel industry in many forms, but it will also have significant consequences to the United States in terms of security of supply and in terms of pricing.
There's a lot there I want to dig into a bit more, but let me, again, just for the clarity of people watching's sake, did you have any idea this was coming?
Well, the president actually did do this once before, just ahead, I think it was in mid-March, and, we thought at that point, so I guess we always know there's a risk of unpredictability with the president, but did we expect this? Absolutely not. And we didn't expect tariffs in the first place, given the business that I was describing earlier and how integrated we are with the United States. It's completely unjustified.
Have you heard anything from the Prime Minister's office or anyone from the federal government?
Well, we're starting to engage with the federal government. We know they're monitoring the situation, but frankly, the folks that I represent, the steel industry right across this country, we're looking for immediate action. Once this is confirmed in writing, which we are expecting, over the course of this day, the executive order to become visible, we're expecting our government to act, quickly and decisively on two key areas. One is the retaliatory response, and another is to ensure that we're putting up measures as soon as possible at our border, because this not only causes problems with our access to the United States, but much steel around the world will be looking for new markets and will be targeting Canada.
Now, we do need to wait to see what the exact parameters are going to be, but we heard from President Trump that he would like this to go into effect as of June 4th. 4 days from now. That's not a lot of time. We know the Prime Minister is going to be at the First Minister's meeting tomorrow. He's going to be meeting with the premiers. Have you been in touch with any of the premiers to sort of push this on the agenda for tomorrow?
Absolutely. The premiers that are, that have the most steel in their province are deeply engaged, and we expect they will be raising this as well with the federal government. But I want to make one thing really clear. Even though this is a new development over the course of the last, 12 hours or so, we do know we have been asking for the exact same thing from the federal government, even under the 25% tariff. We mustn't forget the 25% tariff was creating havoc and disruption as well. So this sort of doubles down the urgency, if you will, and accelerates the job losses. But we've already lost significant jobs and customers, and we'll never see those back. We need responses immediately. So that's kind of the good news in this. It's not the beginning of the story in the sense that we have been asking the government for the exact same thing yesterday as we're asking for them today. So they should be in a ready position to respond.
What have you thought so far of, it's a brand new government, a new prime minister. He's met with the president. He's gone to Washington. We just had the throne speech where he's reinforced his commitment to Canadian industry. Is it enough so far?
Listen, all great signs. And in fact, this prime minister launched before the election a consultation on border measures. I guess all we're saying now is it's time to act. So it's been great to see the more collegial tone, if you will, between the Prime Minister Carney and President Trump. But I think at this point, we now need to put some action into place. It's simply too urgent to ignore.
Catherine, let's play out the worst case scenario that action is not taken. The 50% tariffs go into effect starting June the 4th. Walk me through the scenario. Then what starts happening to the Canadian steel industry in Canada?
Well, listen, 25% had serious consequences. I've already discussed the jobs that have been lost. Were hundreds of jobs lost already. What I think you can see, what you'll see right away is at least at 25%, while shipments reduced by about 25 to 30% itself, I think you're going to see shipments from Canada to the United States completely stop. And for the context, that's 1/2 of everything we produce in the country will no longer be shipped. So that's a dramatic situation.
Earlier, you said that the businesses that have been lost to the Canadian steel industry will not be regained. Why? Why can they not be brought back?
Well, the problem will be, once you've lost customers, once you've lost employees, et cetera, it really is. And once you're operating in the context that we are operating in the steel industry, where there's a global glut of steel, all we can see is problems. It's going to be really, really difficult to reestablish our role in the supply chain. And, I have to emphasize at this moment how important a domestic steel industry to a nation's national security, economic security, and frankly, sovereignty. So I think it should be an all hands on deck approach to ensure that we are protecting the domestic industry as quickly and as comprehensively as possible. We don't want a handout. We don't want like government supports. What we want are tools in place that help us be able to compete in our own market and get, unfair trade out of our market and use that as the major offset to the loss of the United States market.
Do you feel any sense of optimism in that earlier this week on Wednesday in the United States, a federal court overturned the president's tariffs, saying that they were illegal, not just that they didn't make sense and they didn't work, which is a political argument that's been made, but that in fact this was an act of illegality and that the tariffs on all foreign nations needed to be reworked. Now, subsequently, an appeals court overturned that. It might go all the way to the Supreme Court, but there seems to be a very strong, legitimate legal argument to stop the president from moving forward with these tariffs. Is that going to be too little, too late? I mean, what's your read on all of that?
Oh, unfortunately, those legal decisions did not affect the tariffs that are applied on steel. There was no change and no relief in those. And the reason is that the tariffs on the steel industry are done under a different legal structure than the tariffs that were being challenged in the court system that the courts threw out earlier this week. So unfortunately, that is not a path for relief anytime soon for us.
Okay, so it's going to be a busy weekend for you. How are you going to navigate these next? We talked about the last 12 hours. What's the next 24, 48 hours going to be like for you?
Well, we're doing a lot of outreach, as you rightly ask about, with the governments, all levels of government. We are very cognizant that we are in a very interesting window. We know President Trump has agreed to come to the G7. We maintain the idea that Canada should be able to negotiate tariff-free trade with the states, with the United States, with the president, and on steel specifically. We have done a lot as this country to align our trade policies with the U.S., and we've really created a perimeter against unfair trade practices, particularly from China, around the North American perimeter of trade. So we really, we have to push that aspect as well. But we also need to raise the alarm bells that at 50%, this stops steel flows in the United States, and we have a major gap in our ability, in our customer base, if you will.
Catherine Cobden, I know it's going to be busy. Thanks so much for your time today. And listen, if there's a major development by tomorrow, please let's check in again and see how things are moving forward.
Yeah, thanks very much for following this. Really appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks so much.